Well, to conclude this last part of the theme of the institution that did not consolidate number 3, and after doing some interesting analysis and to have created some expectancy of some particular interest for other learnings, we have to conclude this last part of the study of the institution that did not consolidate part 3. And as said before, the first thing we will understand is that the feet leave a mark in the ground, the same way as the hands leave a print in what we touch, a print known as fingerprints. We have to learn to differentiate things and see them as they are, to avoid more confusions. This is fundamental, because many times we look things and we create confusions, and that is not right. As we can read from the passage itself, the feet are composed of a peculiar form of alloy, and this is very important. Pay careful attention to this. In other words, the iron and the clay are united in a peculiar and particular way, forming in that way the feet of the statue. Now then, in the mystical world, it is known that the iron belongs to the sphere of war. Also, it is very well known that the iron is part of the weapons used to torture souls, and that its symbology is compared to demons. This is basic. Also, it is known that the iron has to do with idolatry and deceit in its origins, in its beginnings, even though it persists until nowadays. Right? The same way as the clay that has served throughout recent history for pagan cults and false images. In other words, the text we are studying is revealing us that in a determined time the religious deceit will come to rule the world of the souls, and that will submit them to lie and impiety throughout a religious mystery. This is very famous, the mystery of iniquity. These themes, as others, are addressed in a study by email that we have been in some way promoting, and that we address them in a study about prophecy that you can ask. So look how interesting this symbolism impetrated in this passage that we have analyzed. It is basic, and it is basic for a simple reason, to where this passage is taking us. Look what an interesting thing. That is why Jesus the Messiah clearly spoke, establishing in Matthew 24:4 the following: is something elemental, is something that has to be permanently remembered in all the life. Jesus in this passage gives an answer, but it is an intriguing answer. It's like those answers that pass unnoticed, but that has an extraordinary content, explosive, unique. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. But what really happened with that warning of the Lord? Let's leave Revelation to illustrate us about it. In the book of Apocalypse, chapter 12, verse 9, it is related to us, and we found the overlap of that text that says the following. Apocalypse 12:9. And the great dragon was cast out. Here, by inertia, we will stop the study and will submerge in this famous passage, an extraordinary passage, because it tells a series of interesting things, but we have to abstract from this because we have to conclude the subject. So it says in Apocalypse 12:9, and the great dragon was cast out. Extraordinary. This is an extraordinary thing, says the old serpent. Another theme, fascinated and valid, called the devil and Satan. But here is where the mule throws the rider, which, says the test, deceives the whole world, colon. He was cast out in the earth, comma, and his angels were cast out with him. So now we are obliged to do the contrasts between Matthew 14:4 and Apocalypse 12:9. We repeat, Matthew 14:4 says the following, And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. What does Apocalypse 12:9 says? What was the result of that warning? That the whole world was deceived. What an extraordinary thing. That is why it is important to take the texts correctly and to make the appreciation that must be appreciated, because otherwise we steal the knowledge or we let them to steal it from us. So look what an interesting thing this aspect, this matter of take heed that no man deceive you. This warning that the Messiah left, not only for the disciples of that moment, but for all those that were to be throughout the history, and was not taken into account. And today the majority of people are being deceived. And that is not being said by us. It is revealed, specified, and pointed out by the book of Revelation, which throughout the unique eye of God, throughout the manifested will, reveals and shows us that Satan deceives the whole world. There is no escape there. So there arises a series of questionings, which are valid questionings. How is it possible that the Messiah made a warning in his coming, warning that should be respected, observed, kept, guarded, and fulfilled for all those who follow him and for all those who follow him today, and that we should take heed that no one deceive us? That pillar of that declaration continues being uncomprehended until nowadays, keeps not being applied by the majority of people. Through revelation we can see the development of that variable, and to discover that people keeps being deceived, and that such warning was not taken into account by nobody, or at least by the majority. Always every rule has its exception, and there always will be some people, we say some without specifying quantity, that will observe this, and that will guard in their heart and in their mind. But what a sad thing, so painful to discover, that the deceit is a fundamental part of the lives of countless of people, and no matter how much the Messiah warned about it, it was not obeyed, was not observed, was not kept, was not fulfilled, but all the contrary, the vast majority has been deceived. So with this context of the third part of the institution that did not consolidate it, the Church of God hopes that you can have a vision a little bit more wider, and that you can start looking things from other perspective in another way, that it calls your attention, and that you think and decide that something is happening, and that measures have to be taken regarding to it. That is fundamental, because if not, the power of the truth will be diluted by the deceit, because we do not do our part to change, to leave the truth govern us, and that the presence and personality of the Messiah be in our lives. Do not forget, take heed that no man deceive you. That is something fundamental, basic, and elemental. With this in mind, we believe that we have come to the end of our study, and we have tried to give a different perspective with passages so that we can understand each other. The Church of God considers that it's an opportunity so that you can study the scriptures in a determined way, And it does it through this radio so that you can have an opportunity to learn with us. Also, the Church of God puts to your disposition a webpage so that you can consult it. There is a material, resources, studies, and you can ask for them through the email, as well as the indications of the Facebook pages. The address of the webpage is churchofgod.tk. We also put to your disposition an email where you can write to send your questions, your concerns, your doubts, your commentaries. And the email is thelastchurch7, 7 in number, okay? gmail.com. We are grateful for your tuning. Thank you.